Good morning. Today we are at Qudsia Bagh. This is built outside the walls of Shahjahanabad, but it's still in a way old Delhi because this was built by a Mughal queen as a palace garden. Look at that intricate carvings at this entrance door, and unfortunately the entrance door is one of the few structures that remain because this bagh was gravely damaged in the revolt of 1857 by the British. Qudsia Begum, who commissioned and built this palace and palace garden, that's what it originally was before it was destroyed. She was married to Mohammad Shah, and with his help, who was like the emperor, she built this place in 1748. Though dark times came upon Qudsia Bagh and many of the places in this area in 1857 in the revolt of India's independence, and this place was immensely damaged at that time as well. So yeah, the very quiet and peaceful place that you see today is only a remnant of the original structure and the original palace and garden that was built for Qudsia Begum in 1748. You can read some more information there by pausing, or maybe by just visiting the place on your own as well. Geographically speaking, the Qudsia Bagh is just to the north of Shahjahanabad, and it's right next to the river Yamuna. It's to the west of the river, and the area today is called Kashmere Gate. And there's a very interesting incident that happened here at Qudsia Bagh which is related to India's independence struggle, and this was that Bhagat Singh and Batukeshwar Dutt, they actually met at this place before they ended up going and bombing the assembly, for which they were also eventually hanged. So that's the interesting thing about history, right? Maybe Bhagat Singh climbed these stairs that I will soon climb as well, and you're climbing with me. Maybe he touched these walls as well that I am touching. But of course, as we are walking around in this neighborhood, generally we don't realize the historical importance, and especially this area which is to the north of Shahjahanabad. As I've mentioned in my earlier walks that you've seen, or maybe not seen, this area has a lot of British influence. Of course, the British influence within Qudsia Bagh is more destructive than constructive, because here the fighting of 1857 took place, and that led to a lot of scars. Maybe that one is from the battle as well. It was the first uprising for India's independence. While this place still looks very calming and beautiful, I think the least we can do is take care and try to restore maybe. You notice that? Of course you do. What could that be? That's 1857 right there. The marks from 150 years ago, from the revolt of 1857. Of course, this area generally is where a lot of fighting took place between the British and the mutineering Indian soldiers. And just like that, we've now moved 100 years back into the past. This place is the Roshanara Bagh, and this was built by Roshanara Begum in 1650. And you know what's interesting about that year, 1650? It's roughly also the year when Chandni Chowk or Shahjahanabad was built, which is of course what our series and our last many videos have been about, Chandni Chowk or Shahjahanabad. Look at the beautiful designs and engravings there. So Roshanara Bagh was built by Roshanara Begum, who was Shahjahan's daughter. How beautiful these 370-year engravings look even today. And that in the center is actually the grave of Roshanara Begum. So the story goes, or not the story but the history goes, that Roshanara Bagh was built by Roshanara Begum, who was Shahjahan's daughter. So while Shahjahan was building his massive city of Shahjahanabad or Chandni Chowk, not too far away from here, Roshanara Begum, who was his younger daughter, she was building this place as her own little palace. And there's this interesting rivalry between Roshanara Begum, who was the younger daughter, and Jahanara Begum. She was the one who was more intimately designing Shahjahanabad along with her father Shahjahan, because it's believed that Jahanara was the favorite. That's why she was the one who was helping build Chandni Chowk, and Roshanara was kind of jealous and she was building her own palace here. So that's kind of the interesting complex history of this place, which is Roshanara Bagh. So the chemistry of these two sisters and these two daughters of Shahjahanabad, it also ends up impacting a number of other things that are relevant for the Mughal history. For instance, Roshanara Begum was jealous of Jahanara because she was given the title of the First Lady by Shahjahan, being his favorite daughter, and therefore Roshanara decided to take revenge by plotting to have her younger brother Aurangzeb become the next ruler and then use his support for her own advantage. History goes that she ended up succeeding in making Aurangzeb as the next ruler against Dara Shikoh. In fact, Dara Shikoh was killed by Aurangzeb, even though Dara Shikoh was the older one and also Shahjahan's favorite. And that's how Roshanara ended up having a huge impact on the later Mughal Empire. And that impact on the later Mughal Empire, I think it becomes clearer if you try to think about the differences between Dara Shikoh, who was very progressive and accommodating, and Aurangzeb, who was a religious fanatic and was therefore also not very efficient in keeping people together and leading a successful empire. And it's believed that Aurangzeb was the person who kind of started the decline of Mughal Empire and the subsequent takeover by the British in India. So yeah, that's the story of Roshanara Begum and Roshanara Bagh, and earlier you saw the story of Qudsia Begum and Qudsia Bagh. I hope you like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you